would you like to lead us? If you could all please rise, we're going to call this meeting to order at 6:02 on Monday, April 24th. Mr. Johnson, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Please face the flag. Ready? Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Domer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Keshapagita.
Here, sir.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Lau is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Rick Crosby is absent. Mayor Hepburn.
Present.
Thank you, sir.
This is time set aside for anyone wishing to address the city council on items not listed in any other place on the agenda. Under the provisions of the Brown Act, the legislative body is provided or prohibited from talking or engaging in discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. However, your concerns may be referred to staff or set for discussion later. You can email your public comment to the assistant city clerk at cityclerk@cityoflaverne.org. Your public comment will be shared with the city council and included as part of the permanent record. There is a 3-minute time limit on public comments. I usually let you speak as long as you want, so we try that. Anyway, with that, we'll open up public comment. Do we have any public comment or anyone with their hand raised? JR? With that, we'll close public comment and bring it up to the dais. Do we have any public comment from Councilmember Johnson or Councilmember Cash?
I just wanted to thank the city staff today. JR, they appreciate it from our troop, Boy Scouts reached out to me and I want to be able to give them the opportunity to come see their city hall, and it is theirs as part of the whole community. And thanks again for yourself and all the staff that kind of make it happen today. And it's just good to see our kids come into our communities and, sit in our seats. Who knows, the next person that might take my seat got one day. I'm not going to be here forever. So thanks again. And I appreciate you guys' support.
Well, one day they will be Eagle Scouts if they choose to make that direction, which we've done a number of those. We have quite a few in our community, which is wonderful. I also want to thank staff, Mr. Domer, Community Services Department, Director Yvonne Duran. Obviously, it was the Public Works, May Wade. I want to also thank our police department, our fire department. We had a presence on the Foothill Open Streets event this weekend, which was incredible. I mean, the streets were packed, especially it was like Laverne was like that centerpiece of all the activities. So the restaurants were going crazy yesterday. So we started in Pomona where we kicked the whole thing off with Assemblymember Holden and Supervisor Catherine Barger, and then a number of the city council members and mayors from Pomona, from San Dimas, from Claremont, and also myself from Laverne. And as being part of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, I kicked off the thing, and it was a great event. So thank you to staff. Everybody did a fantastic job, and everybody did a really good job. So with that, we'll close public comment and we'll move to Active Transportation Committee applicant interviews. Mr. Domer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the Active Transportation Committee applicant interviews. Back in July of 2022, 2 vacancies were created on this commission. There were a lot of folks who put in. It's been a long time since July of 2022, but we are at that point where we worked with you to get this adjourned regular meeting to do the interviews. The goal tonight is to have those applicants who submitted still preference and responses to come up, provide a 3-minute-ish presentation based on their application, why they feel they are fit to be on the Active Transportation Committee. Also, there were 3 questions that were provided to them, so we're going to ask them to answer those questions during that time. Mr. Mayor, you will just go through the item, the names, and if somebody's not here, we'll just move them to the end, and if they're not here, then they're not here. But we'll hear from all the applicants that are here tonight. In front of you is a forced rating application. You can use it or not. It is always a good and helpful thing to help you as you're listening to people. The forced application is basically if the first person is always number 1 and then second person comes around, that first person may still be number 1, or they may move down to number 2. The goal is for next week, there will be an item on the other matters of the regular agenda meeting to actually make the 2 selections. And so we're not going to make any selections tonight. This way it allows both Councilmember Lau and Mayor Pro Tem Crosby to watch the video of this event, to listen to the applicants, and also to review their application material that all of you have. And again, next week, we'll ask that during the council meeting time for that, somebody make a nomination. If there's a second, then there can be a vote on that applicant, and we do that until both spots are filled. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll let you go ahead and call forth the first Active Transportation Committee applicant.
Jared James Palmer. Well, going once, going twice. I would also want to introduce previous council member Mir Davis, served for a 4-year term right in the back there, and he's also applying for this. Thank you for your service, Mr. Davis. We will move to item number 2, which would be John H. Hill. Good evening. Oh, no. Time to go. It's all yours. Mic's on, JR?
Yes.
Yeah, if you can just speak, if you
Okay.
can pull the mic towards you a little bit, it can move on that pedestal. Just, we want to make sure that our audience and people on Zoom.
All right.
Okay.
How's that? Okay.
Is that good? We're good. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me today. I really enjoy living in Laverne and welcome the opportunity to help make our city even better for everyone. The questions that you asked, one was, what issues do you see in the city facing relative to mobility? In general, I think we're doing pretty well. Kids are walking to school. There's cyclists using Bonita and Baseline quite regularly. We have the new bike lanes down White, and people are out and about, especially in downtown. I would like to see it to be a little bit safer in a couple of areas. Here's some areas that I worry about when my kids are biking. For instance, Foothill, where the 210 exits, it's kind of a busy area, and most of the ways to get across the arrows. A couple of safety things. Aside from safety, I'd like it to be easier for kids to get to schools. I know that especially like Ramona, the water district forces kids to kind of go around it and funnels them into some busy streets. So just some examples. We do pretty well in sidewalks and mobility, but there are a couple of places that don't even have sidewalks. Like over on White, there's a place where you end up in the street. And then I would love to make it easier for people to get to the lake. I know that Laverne, we own some parts down there to get to that back entrance. I've given some specific examples, but I know that the committee will solicit feedback, and I'd love to review the broader community's ideas and see what can be done. The next question that you guys sent was, do you use other forms of transportation? So I ride a bicycle, I cycle regularly. I rode 4,000 miles last year. Not all of it in Laverne, but
One weekend?
yeah, no, in the year, yeah. My kids, they walk to Roynan, they bike to Ramona, they now walk to Bonita. So I'm very conscious of people getting around and of the roads and the intersections. What are my thoughts on active transportation? Or I assume that the question was the California Active Transportation Program. I think the goals of that are well intentioned. I do see that it's a very competitive environment. So we have to make a very good case if we're able to go after funding. In my job, I help with proposals and things like that. So I'm familiar with that kind of process of making a case. My top three priorities for the committee, safety is number one. I'm an engineer. I work on life-saving equipment with helicopters. Safety is always at the forefront. I was in a meeting with the FAA this morning. So any existing issues or proposed changes must address the safety of all people in all modes of transportation. Second, as I would want to work for the whole population. So I ride a bike, but I understand that everybody has different access needs. My best friend in high school had to use a scooter because of mobility issues. And I remember trying to figure out how to get around obstacles for that. And we have a lot of people walking dogs and baby scooters or baby strollers and things around the town. Third will be to balance the needs of all stakeholders while accomplishing the mission of the community. So let's see what we can do to make it easier for everyone. I go on a lot of business trips. I've been to Germany and France and Japan. I've seen ways that they can make things work that supports pedestrians, cyclists, people on trains and cars. So I've seen it kind of work, and I look forward to helping with that kind of thing. The complete streets policy was also asked, encourages safe, comfortable, integrated transportation network for all users. This is absolutely the right thing to do. When planning, you really have to look at the whole picture. I like that they have kind of a health portion of that. The more people that we can get out active, it's a healthier population in our city and reduces the burden on, our clinics and hospitals and things. The Golden Streets was a great example of getting families out to exercise. It was really nice to see so many people out on Bonita and, all up and down. And let's see if we can, how can we make it how can we make infrastructure so that it's like that 364 days of the year, the other 364 days, so people can get around. So that's, and I guess just thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. That's right. You're number one. Let's see. Andrew D'Amico. There you are. Welcome. Make yourself comfortable, and when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you, members of the council, Honorable Mayor, for this opportunity to present my application. As a background, I moved to Laverne in the city in 2011 when we got married to my wife, and we have a 7-year-old daughter. And one of the things I do want to point out is just this year, I was able to take the training wheels off of her bicycle. So we've been buzzing around all over the place. So pretty excited about that. Additionally, we are avid walkers. We live near White and Bonita, so we're able to travel downtown for a number of different occasions. So I do appreciate that. Previously, I worked as a product marketing manager at a gas cylinder company. We make high pressure gas cylinders for applications such as hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So clean technology is something I have great interest. Before, I worked for a company called Econolite. You might have heard of them. They are a traffic signal manufacturer. They also develop software and a number of different solutions for clean mobility. It's pretty exciting when I moved here to learn that the very first city to implement their latest system software was Laverne. So that was exciting. It's exciting to be part of that. As far as issues that I've seen, I would like some of the good things. Parking has always been really good here, based compared to the previous cities that I've lived in. I do appreciate going downtown, and you have a number of different parking locations. The heart of the foothills. I got back in town just to see the tail end of it, and it was really exciting to see. I mean, just to see multitudes of people going down different corridors with no cars. I mean, oh my gosh, that was incredible. As far as one of the things I would like to see though is when there are events, you can design your traffic signal software to navigate people around different events and be able to, like Google Maps, for example, would be able to have different routes for you. That would be a great thing to see as far as this and other different optimizations as well for your signal software. Green for bike lanes. Bike lanes are it's really great. There are some spots that have been upgraded. I greatly appreciate that. One of the things I like to see are more technology being added to that, such as traffic light indications. Now, I work for one company, but that doesn't mean I advocate. I advocate for the technology, not specifically for a company. And a competitor had a indicator light that you're able to put on. It looks like a push button, but when you pull up to the bike, the signal, the detector will see you, and it'll indicate that you're detected as a bicycle. I think that's really important for California and the country. Another issue I'd like to see more cooperation with Caltrans. Caltrans is a big corridor that goes here down Foothill, and it would be great to see more signal timing actuations occur within there. So, for example, for like a adaptive signal control going between the the agencies. As far as priorities, I'd like to see, as I mentioned, the green markings for more significant markings for bicycle lanes. I was just got back from Colorado Springs and they have green markings everywhere, in addition to the signal confirmation. I'd also like to see traffic signal calming or traffic calming measures. I live on a street that's kind of a pass through from that people try to use to get around Foothill, and they drive rather fast. I know speed bumps are a 4-letter word for the fire departments, but you know, there's other technologies that would be nice to look at. In addition, more technology for signal optimization and things like that, where you can actually look at your, excuse me, you can look at your signal diagram for your system software, and you can see the hotspots, and then the engineers can go address those. Those are really exciting to see when those are operated effectively. A couple of the questions that were asked as far as the active transportation plan, I did appreciate the time, and it certainly was an investment for you to work with the company to create that program. And then have, as far as public engagement, going onto the website, it was really neat to see like where your focus are. You're able to have public comments on those different spots, and you're able to filter the different modes of transportation. Yeah, and the segmentations in the schools, I mean, really important as far as a lot of people walk to school, to be able to look at those focus corridors. And the complete streets question. Now, this is something near and dear to my heart because of my previous experience. I did a lot of the studies and different things like that and look for different funding opportunities. So the neat thing about complete streets is that they talk less about the modality and more about people. I mean, how do you move people around? How do people get from place to place? And so understanding the requirements of each of those modalities, the different corridors. One of the things that's important about complete streets is the need to address safety. I mean, traffic fatalities have been declining, but they are kind of ticking back up. So we really do need to take a look at that. And lastly, I did want to point out, this is a project I'm working on. It's in Wilmington, but it's next to the Port of Los Angeles. Now, the people of Wilmington, they're underserved. And what's happening is all the pollution from the ports, it's right there. It's so sad, but we're working on a project where we can, convert the diesel powered material handling equipment to hydrogen fuel cells. So it's zero emission. It's a really exciting project. And that's something that we're being moved, advocated nationally. So in closing, I offer expertise in traffic technology, funding mechanisms, and operational strategies. And I'm excited about using these skills in serving my community.
Thank you very much for applying, and we'll be with you guys in a week or so, right? Thank you very much. Next up is, okay, I'm going to get this right, I hope. It's going to be Sabine Chantel Eileen Steiber, better known as, we're going to call you Chantel, because that's what you told us to do. Good evening.
Thank you, council members, for having me, Mayor Hepburn. I'm Chantal Stieber. I'm an associate professor of chemistry at Cal Poly Pomona, and my bike takes me to Cal Poly Pomona every day. On the way, I drop off the kids at the daycare at Fairplex. And so I really see a lot of what's happening on our streets on a daily basis for someone who's using active transportation. With regards to some of the questions that were asked, some of the things that I see in Laverne, we specifically moved here because there's already quite good infrastructure for active transportation. So both from a walking and biking perspective. However, despite that, there are still some improvements. Some of those things include a lot of fast cars driving through city streets, and particularly in front of schools. There's some lack of access for people with disabilities, such as curb cuts, which aren't consistent throughout the city. And also, it would be great to see more connections between walking and biking paths that exist within the city, and also creating new connections. The ways we use active transportation in our family, we actually bought an e-bike, and then we bought a second e-bike, sold our second car, and now our two e-bikes are our cars. And we really only use the car to go on road trips on weekends. We use it to go to the hospital and to urgent care because they're too far away. But otherwise, we use our e-bikes for commuting, for going to the grocery store, doing grocery pickup, to take the kids to the parks. And on a daily basis, we walk around the town. We live near Old Town, and we really enjoy sometimes even going to the donut shop. And so I'd really like to see some of those improvements to make the city more accessible for people who maybe don't feel like the city is safe enough for them to be able to do some of those things. With regards to the alternative transportation or active transportation program, I really appreciated the city feedback. I thought it was a nicely designed survey that we made lots of comments on. And it's really important to make sure that the city does have a plan for how we do active transportation. Some of the things I'd like to see on that front is more representation from people with families, people with disabilities, and people who actually commute regularly, because oftentimes a lot of the bike infrastructure and advocacy is really focused more on people who are recreational cyclists as opposed to people who are using bicycles every day. My 3 top priorities for the committee would be to improve safety and infrastructure for walking and biking. One very simple fix would be to add a bike rack right in front of City Hall. I had to park my bike at the library. The second would be to increase involvement from people with families, people with disabilities, and the community. One simple thing would be to partner with the family and activities. With the Youth and Family Action Committee. Thank you.
Gotcha.
And finally, I'd like to apply and obtain grant funding for more active transportation programs within the city. For example, the city of Pomona recently received a lot of funding from SCAG, $700,000. In my position at Cal Poly, I've successfully received grants in multi-millions of dollars from multiple federal agencies. So it's something I'd like to extend to my community involvement. And finally, with regards to complete streets, I think this is one of the most well-designed plans I've seen. It really looks at all components of projects, both from design, implementation, but also maintenance. And it really looks at all the stakeholders. So we look at people who walk, people who bike, people who have various modes of public transportation or other vehicular transportation. And it's looking at a way to make cities and spaces accessible for everybody. One thing that is nice in that is they have assigned a point system to the various components of projects. So through all phases of projects, you can assess which areas maybe need a bit more help over others when you're designing and implementing projects. So overall, I think it's a really great way to assess both short-term and long-term feasibility for projects and to make our communities safer and more sustainable spaces for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chantel. Yeah, I was at the Open Streets and Mayor Tim Sandoval was talking about the connection between Cal Poly and that and the funding for it, which is going to be pretty exciting. That'll connect the communities together, plus all of ours. So that's really cool. Let's see, we have. Next up, we have Angie Anderson. Say that Angie's not here. We'll move on to Mr. Davis.
Good evening, Honorable Council. It's a pleasure to be here on this side of the dais this evening. I did enjoy my time when I was on that side of the dais as well. And while I was a member of City Council, I was also a member of the Active Transportation Committee. And so I submitted my application so I could potentially retain this engagement for our city. I think our city is doing a lot of great things. And I think we can continue along that path to continue to improve, as we've seen from when we put in our bicycle lanes and when we put in our traffic lights to enhance the mobility of bicyclists and walkers, we found our neighboring cities follow suit and sort of leapfrogging us in a way. And so I think several of the candidates tonight hit it right on, which is that my top 3 priorities would be to continue what we're doing right, continue to look at those things that can be enhanced by our own activity and our own budget, and then look to submit grant proposals or grant requests to get additional funding from either the county or the state, or potentially even the federal government, to be able to continue to do even more and make Laverne a cyclist paradise and a walking paradise. On 2nd and 3rd Street, we know in our neighborhood, well, I'll keep it personal. I used to ride my bicycle to school to Roynan, and at that time, when at Roynan had about 500 bicycles and about 20 cars, and now it seems the other way around, that they struggle to have even a dozen bicyclists and hundreds of cars showing up with kids to be dropped off. I think many of our traffic considerations and concerns could be helped if we help to support the school district and ourselves and trying to enhance and increase the bicycle to school and the pathways to get kids to and from school, as well as pathways to then get some of our elderly folks out there to help with the kids getting to school by creating Pelotons. Some friends of mine were riding, actually neighbors and friends were riding in a such Peloton this past Sunday in the open streets, the 626 heart of the foothills. Unfortunately, I was unable to get attached to a Peloton, so I was able to enjoy a little bit of it, but I know there was a great deal of enjoyment out at that event. And another one of my goals would be to see that we find more streets that have more people riding their bicycles, rather than feeling like we have to create barricades and special access to get people onto the streets that they're getting on right now. I mean, much of our design has been designed around automobiles, and automobile traffic for safety is largely concentrated on a few arteries, and the other streets are kept bare. One of the things I'd like to see, because I think Complete Streets is a very fine program and a policy, is to focus on intersections where we would want people walking or riding that intersect with the traffic for cars. We don't necessarily want cars to start traveling on the same pathways, such as 3rd or 5th. As I often tell people, they say, well, you know, active transportation, bicycling is all geared around Bonita. I said, not necessarily. 5th Street and 3rd Street make very good pathways to ride bicycles, especially if you're not a fast rider. As I would like to say, using a Nordic skiing concept, you would color code routes so that families would know that they'd want to get down on 2nd Street or 1st Street or 3rd Street and ride in cul-de-sacs and quiet streets with their families, so that they can teach their kids to ride together, stay on the right side of the road, not always put them on the sidewalks, because sidewalks are actually quite dangerous because cars don't have enough time to respond to them. As far as my engagement in active transportation, I walk a lot. I use the bus when I can. I ride my bike to and from work. Although with COVID-19, I actually gained 30 pounds, not 19. So the pandemic is a COVID 30 for me. So I need to get back on my bicycle. I need to stop enjoying my EV pickup truck that I bought that gets me around town without using any gas. And I have to say, electric vehicles are here to stay, and they're going to continue to grow, because whenever I drive my pickup truck, it feels like I'm in a slot car. At any rate, what would be the top 3 priorities that were I to become part of this team would be to, again, keep improving the things that we're improving, find through the Complete Streets policies and grant funding ways to make intersections safer and more crossable for those that aren't in the vehicle. And then lastly, to increase and enhance the engagement in all parts of our town, Foothill, Old Town, with more bicycle racks and more things. I mean, we've turned bicycle racks into art pieces because people aren't really using bicycles very often. We need to make them both. We need to make art pieces that can hold 20 or 30 bicycles, so that if you're at 4th Street or you're at Cafe Allegro or anywhere, you can just pull your bike up, have it join the other 19, and go have some food and find time. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve at the Active Transportation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Let's see. John Zachary Hamill. That leaves Curtis McPherson. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. How are you guys all doing?
Good, thank
My
you.
name's Curtis McPherson. Thank you for this opportunity. I've been here in Laverne pretty much my whole life, other than like 4 years when I was, a younger adult. But otherwise, I've been here since I think 91. So I grew up here, went to Laverne Heights, Ramona, Bonita, walked to school all the time, rode my bikes to school. I'm familiar. Yeah, I remember riding on Foothill before the freeway was extended. It was a good time getting to school in the morning. But anyway, it's Laverne's great. I love it here. But there are some things that I think that we could be improving on, and that's why I want to be part of this committee, is to have an opinion and hopefully represent the community in a good way. Some of the biggest issues I see, number one, the Gold Line is going to cause a lot of traffic disruptions once it actually starts moving. We've already experienced different things, but once the train's running, the gates are going down as often as I think they will. North-south mobility is going to be very difficult. So we're going to have to figure out a good way to prioritize how do we get north-south mobility going. Wheeler, D Street, East Street, Fairplex, and White are all going to be heavily impacted. Let's see. And also in regards to bike lanes, I think the city's done a wonderful job bringing bike lanes. I used to ride myself. I don't ride as much as I used to, but there are still gaps in the network. Whether it be between Marshall Canyon, White Avenue, and Bonita, there's a gap there. And then there's also bike lanes. Pudding Stone Drive and Fairplex have bike lanes, and there's issues there. I know if you're heading north on the bike lane, it's on the west side of the street on Fairplex. It kind of just dead ends, and you're left with a sidewalk, and you don't really have a way to cross the street. You don't have a way to get around that, and I'd like to see that improved. And then I do find that parking sometimes is difficult, whether it's Old Town or some of the other major shopping centers. I'm glad to see the businesses are full. I just wish that I would hope that we can get the streets in a way that people feel comfortable getting to these places without having to drive. Like was mentioned with Roynan, same thing with kids, getting kids to school. If we can get 400 bikes and 12 cars, would be a lot different than if it was the other way around like it is right now. I do use other forms of transportation. Like I mentioned, I used to be an avid cyclist. I used to log hundreds of miles a month. Work slows me down. I own my own business now here. And but prior to owning my business, I rode my bike to work almost every day. You can even find me on Google Street View riding to work one day. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, I still get out and ride around a few times a week, whether it's just local shops, local restaurants, things like that. I get out, especially now that it's not raining so much. It's been really enjoyable to get out there. I think it's important to have have community input to help guide cities as we adjust and adapt to changes around us. I'm here because I want to help be proactive in these changes. That's what my hope is. 3 main priorities for me: all forms of traffic to and from the Gold Line station. How are we going to keep motor vehicles and everyone else using the street, whether it's skateboards, bikes, walking, wheelchairs, scooters? We got to get everybody moving safely and effectively through all this area. It's going to bring I do think it's going to bring a lot of extra people into Laverne, and I look forward to that. But we need to make sure we're able to get everybody moving where we need and in a timely manner. As was mentioned before, I think repairing outdated and some like areas of missing sidewalks is a big one. I know we fixed a gap up in Golden Hills and Esperanza that was missing. That was great. And I know there's still some curbs that don't have the ramps in Old Town Laverne, areas like that. I've actually seen some people in wheelchairs have issues with those, and it's an easy. It seems like it should be an easy fix. And then lastly, I think one of my top priorities also would be just community engagement and education, whether we're talking with drivers about how roads can be shared, or whether we're educating the community, hey, these things are here for you to use. This is how we like them to be used, things like that. Because there are some areas I think that the community doesn't understand, like Marshall Canyon, when to cross the street, how to use it, where to go, where it actually connects you to. It's amazing that you can ride almost from Benelli up all the way into the hills of Marshall Canyon, right through the middle of our city. So those are some areas. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you guys for the opportunity, and best of luck finding somebody, because there's a lot of good candidates here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go back through again.
see.
Angie Anderson. Oh, Jared Palmer, come on up.
I apologize for being late. I had a class that ended at 6.
You're here.
Yes. So being on the active transportation committee would be something I'm interested in doing because I feel that the city has a couple problems that as a younger person, I am better equipped to understand, especially with our thriving young people's population here in the city through the high school and through University of Laverne. There's a couple issues we do have, such as a lack of safe bicycle lanes. I feel that there are a number where you don't really feel safe being that close to traffic, especially with the speeds that people do drive through our city. And there's also a number of secondary streets, such as D Street, where we don't have any bicycle lanes, even though there is Roynan and Bonita High School located right on it. Another issue is the fact that there's a lot of sidewalks that kind of end sometimes, and also it can be hot in the summer. And without having proper shading, it makes it uncomfortable to use that as a route to get to and from places within the city. I live very close to Old Town, and I'm thankful that it's very shaded. It makes it a nice walk in the summer. But there are other areas I'd like to go to where you can't really walk without feeling very hot and sweaty. The other forms of transportation I use, up until my senior year of high school, I always walked or would be driven to school. But as a older teenager, I then started driving. And as I went to colleges where I couldn't walk or bicycle, I had to drive there. So I have just been using my car to get around the past couple of years. And my thoughts on alternative transportation programs, I think they're a good idea. I think Laverne has a lot of potential. We could implement active SUVs programs in the city, perhaps having bike locker racks for these bicycles, electric bicycles, to be put in so people, especially students such as the University of Laverne and Bonita High School, as well as our other schools in the area, can utilize these bikes to get around without having to have students immediately jump into a car and start driving around to get places within our city. My top 3 priorities for the committee would be implementing bicycle lanes throughout the entirety of the city, not just on our arterial roads. My second would be to have sidewalks that have better shading and feel more comfortable, especially in our summer months. And lastly, I think implementing traffic calming measures to slow drivers down would also make people feel safe, both bicyclists and pedestrians. Roundabouts, street diets, as well as anything that can make people feel it's unsafe to drive at high rates of speed, which a lot of people do with our wide streets. I am familiar with complete streets. We learn about that all the time in college right now, and we love them. I love them. They make a lot of sense, both for bicyclists and pedestrians to have much more space, and it helps drivers feel that they need to be one with these other people rather than just owning the road. Thank you. That would be all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we had 2 people that Angie Anderson and also Zachary Hamill. So those 2 people were, no one's in the audience, I think, new. Okay. With that, I appreciate all of you coming tonight. It was great. Will you be hearing from us shortly? We have our other 2 council members that are not here that will be addressing this and reviewing what we went through tonight. Mr. Domer.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that there will be an agenda item on the May 1st meeting that the city council will make the 2 decisions at that time. So
With that, we are going to adjourn to our next meeting, which will be May 1st at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers. Thank you all for coming.